Assalamu alaikum and good evening. If you guys, whoever sitting in the rooms, if you can just come up, I know it will be a little inconvenience, but it's a historical day. We have our Canadian icon, Mayor HAZEL McCALLIon, with us, and if we can just spare a few minutes for her, I asked her if she can give us a little history, because she became the mayor of the city in 1978, and I don't know how many of you were here at that time, but in 1979 she has faced the largest challenge, not of her life, it was the largest challenge of any Canadian mayor or any Canadian premier. I'm going to ask her to start. But before I do that, I'll ask the youngest Khan family, young lady, Aima, to welcome Mayor.
Her Worship, Mayor HAZEL McCALLIon, and honorable guests, good evening. Today we are gathered here to thank and appreciate all that Her Worship, Mayor HAZEL McCALLIon, has done for the wonderful city of Mississauga. After winning the election 12 times and serving the city for 36 years, it marks the end to a marvelous era which started back in 1978. The first time I met Her Worship, I was about 4 years old, and when I was 5, I did my first speech in front of her. And today I am 13, and I only know one mayor, that is Mayor HAZEL McCALLIon. For her, she was not the mayor of Mississauga. Instead, in my view, she considered the residents of the city as her extended family, and as far as the residents were concerned, she was the head of the family and was an iconic role model for the young generations of today. There is so much that can be said about her. However, right now, I would like everyone to pray for her long and healthy life, and for us to have a new mayor who will continue to uplift her vision. God bless her and Canada.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aima Khan. You have done a wonderful job. It looks like you have done some studies. This is Azam's daughter.
Yeah.
Now, if I can have the honor of inviting Mr. Asghar Ali Golu, the Consul General of Pakistan.
Honorable Her Worship, it's really an honor and privilege for all of us to say a befitting goodbye to you. Although it's not a goodbye, you will always remain in our hearts and minds. The dedication with which you have served the people of Mississauga, and particularly our community, we have no words to express our sentiments. As you know, my people, the people who have come from Pakistan, they only could be recognized by 3 words. And they are distinct from other communities in 3 respects. They only understand the language of love, caring, and respect. If you give them love, if you care for them, and if you give them respect, then they will lay their life for you. And what they have done. And on behalf of all my countrymen, I again thank you very much for what you have done for the Mississauga. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's very nice of you.
Thank you, sir. Now I will take the honor of inviting the Consul of Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Lokman.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to say 2 things. First, thanks for the invitation from Mr. and Mrs. Haroon Khan. I enjoyed the very delicious and tasty food tonight. And the second thing, the worship Mayor HAZEL McCALLIon, I'd like to say 2 things. First, I saw you only in the TV. And then tonight I met you directly in personal. So what I see from the TV and you directly, very wonderful. So it's more beautiful than what I saw in the TV. Oh. And the second things, I meet for the first time and I say something a little bit goodbye. It's not polite for me, it's not proper for me, but I should compel myself to say this word by saying I wish you in a good health and good endeavor and long life again. Maybe I can say again, we have our population here about 700 in Mississauga. On behalf of them and the people of Indonesia, to thank, express sincere thanks for the wonderful that you give to our Indonesian citizens. Again and again, thank you, Pak Haroon, and the family and the worship mayor, and hopefully all of us, we enjoy the night. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Now, I'm sure most of you have met our great fire chief of Mississauga, and I was just talking to her. He said his vision is, as Mayor McCallion wanted city of Mississauga to be the best of the best. Now our chief wants to have the Mississauga Fire Department to be the best in Canada. So we welcome the chief.
Well, good evening, and it is truly an honor, Madam Mayor, truly an honor to be here this evening to meet such great people, and thank you, Mr. Khan, for the invitation. I'm very humbled to be in the presence of many great people from the consulate, so welcome to Mississauga. We did talk about Mississauga being leaders in many things, and my vision is to have the Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services the global leaders in fire service best practice. And we've got such a great foundation to continue to build on, and that's to the great support from Mayor McCallion. I think, am I your 5th fire chief?
Yes.
Yes. So Mississauga has had 6 fire chiefs. I am number 6, and I'm honored. I'm actually honored and very humbled and privileged to be the mayor's, hopefully the last fire chief. Hopefully I make it the next month. Anyways, I do want to express my great appreciation to the mayor for her outstanding support for the fire service, for ensuring that Mississauga is a well-protected community. And if it wasn't for her support, we might not be in the shape we're in today. And that's being leaders in Canada and globally around the world. So, Madam Mayor, on behalf of the other 6 fire chiefs or 5 fire chiefs that came before me, I think I can express a great appreciation to you for all your outstanding work and all the best in your future endeavors. Please don't be a stranger. You're always welcome in any one of our 20 fire stations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Now we have Mr. Brian Thomas, a very famous man from a very famous newspaper, Voice Weekly. I know him forever. The only problem is I was not able to provide what he wanted to eat. He wanted to eat biryani. I didn't do it. So I apologize in front of all, but I promise him I'll get him his biryani at his office. So here, Mr. Benoit, he wants to say a few words to Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Haroon. Madam Mayor, Consul Generals. Yeah, actually I came for the biryani and to see Madam Mayor maybe for the very last time, unless she invites me for a fishing trip very soon. I guess you're going on fishing trips, Madam Mayor. Yeah.
I like fishing.
We as media, perhaps we didn't really hit off very well. She may not remember me. I've interviewed her a couple of times. But today I want to talk about 2 incidents, 2 personal experiences that I've had, which will stay with me, and I think it speaks for Madam Mayor. The first time was just around the corner here. There is a grocery. Haroon, I think it is No Frill or one of these groceries here. Some years ago, she was in front of me at the checkout line, and she had those big heavy bottles of what do they call, the Clorox, or so, I mean, I find it heavy myself, and she had 2 of them carrying herself, and I said, wow, like this was such a revealing thing for me, coming from India and used to how they throw their weights around, the politicians, and so I always told my friends, this is things that we can learn from such a great lady. Another time it was not that pleasant because I think we were under the Gardner Bridge coming out of Yonge Street, ramp to Gardner, and somebody cut in front of me quite aggressively. It was a rainy night, night, and then I saw the number plate. I said, it was none other than Mayor McCallion. I said, so we have a very people's person, but she's assertive and aggressive when it needs to be. And I think we'll miss that kind of a touch. I hope we're going to miss whoever comes in, and you've done a wonderful job. We're very happy to be your subjects for the past number of years, and wish you all the best in your retired life.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I guess I'll just say a few words. I think most of you have attended her birthdays at my home. I was be honored. When I call for this dinner tonight, I know I call her 3 times. Every time I call her office, they said she's flying there, she's flying there. I said, my God, this is the last month before election, and she's so busy. So finally her office said, we cannot refuse you, Haroon. We have to get her one day, and tonight is the day. I think about last year, I was on Credit View coming on Britannia. I saw her car in front of me, and I saw her pulling in the gas station right here. I wanted gas as well, and just for a courtesy, I decided to pull into the same gas station, so I filled her car, and then, of course, she paid her credit card. But then what I saw, I don't think you guys will, honestly, you can imagine. We were at that gas station for about 45 minutes because every car which comes into the gas station, it's the biggest station, they all were forgetting their car and fill up. They all come to HAZEL McCALLIon and talk, and one guy came, and he was in the heating and air conditioning business. He said, I cannot stand beside you, Madam Mayor. I'm honest, very honest. He knelt down on his feet. He said, I can only stand in front of you like this. And after about 45 minutes, she asked me, she said, Haroon, now we can't stand anymore. I have to go. So we rushed. So this is the kind of love HAZEL McCALLIon got from the residents of city of Mississauga. I don't know what, but I'm sure she must have done something right that people loved her so much. What can I say? I'm very happy that she's here today, and I'm very happy, and I'm very thankful to the Consul Generals, to the Fire Chief, and to all of you who took time out after jobs and came here. I wanted to keep it very small, very special people. But on the other side, I'm very sad that Mayor McCallion will not be my mayor from, I guess, from December the 1st. Anyway, we wish her all the best, and I'm sure you will find her somewhere beside the Premier. The moment you find, after December 1st, you will find her beside the Prime Minister or beside the Premier, so don't think she's going to take a day off. She will be continuing her job because I had a one-to-one dinner with her for 3 hours. And she said she gets about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, she reads her newspaper. And I said, why you have to read the newspaper? Your staff is there to tell you what is there. And she said, no, I have to know what is there because my staff will only tell me what they want me to know. So this is the kind of person we have among us. And I think, and it is very, very difficult. I know we are looking for Bonnie Kurumbi to be our next mayor, and people are laughing. They said, you got one mayor leaving, your second friend is coming in, which I'm very proud that we will have Mayor Bonnie Kurumbi very soon, next Monday. But it will be very difficult for Bonnie to fill up your shoes, madam. And after that, I'll ask her to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Haroon and his wife have been such wonderful friends of mine over the years. I've been in your home so often.
Many.
The food is delicious, but the warmth of the house and the way in which I've been welcomed is just great. And where's that fine young lady there she is. I remember when you were 4, I remember you did a poem for me when you were younger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. Isn't it wonderful? I love the young people. It is so, so important and such. So thank you very much for those wonderful words of welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Haroon wanted me to say something about when I started as mayor in 1978. I had been mayor of the little town of Streetsville for 3 years. And then the government came along and brought in regional government and put Streetsville, Port Credit, and the town of Mississauga together to form the city. So in 1974, I then became the Streetsville councillor on the city of Mississauga. And then in 1978, I decided I was a little unhappy with what was happening. And I find that if you are unhappy about something, it can take control of your life. and you become unhappy, period. So I said, I'm going to run for mayor. I'm either going to go up or go out and do something else. Well, I got elected in '78, and it's been a wonderful experience. And as Haroon said, in 1979, in the November the 10th, 1979, we had that major derailment at Mavis Road. And I'll tell you, it was quite an experience. First of all, our fire department did a fantastic job looking after us, and the police department. But the evacuation started immediately. We evacuated people out of their homes in their night clothes. They were not even allowed to take time to get dressed, because when the chlorine tank was punctured by the propane tank, chlorine, as you know, which is a deadly chemical, was going up in the air. And fortunately, when the propane tank punctured the chlorine tank, a lot of chlorine went many distance up in the air, fortunately. But we had a big hole in the tank. And then we got together in an emergency situation, and we started then to evacuate people based on which way the wind blew, because this chlorine was being emitted from the chlorine tank. We evacuated 230,000 people.
At that time?
At that time, yeah. Not all of Mississauga. Streetsville was exempt, and I think they accused me of overlooking Streetsville. But the wind wasn't blowing in that direction. We evacuated the Mississauga Hospital. And I will never forget that, because when we made the decision to evacuate the hospital, I went down there. I was really worried, because people were in the operating room, coming out of the operating room, coming downstairs, and with the attachments that is attached to people when they have an operation, into ambulances. And 50 ambulances lined up in front of that hospital to evacuate all the people out of the Mississauga Hospital to Etobicoke and to Oakville, etc. Just imagine, you know, when you have to evacuate a hospital, I would not want to go through that again. So, as a result of the police department, the OPP, our own Peel Regional Police, our fire department, and Mr. Roy McMurtry, he was Attorney General at the time, came out. Then people were sent down from Ottawa to help us manage this disaster. Can you imagine? I went to square one. My son woke me up. I was asleep that night. My son woke me up and he said, Mom, he went up on the roof of our house and he said, Mom, I think the City Hall is blown up. It wasn't that, it was at the Mavis Road, but it's close to City Hall. So the fire chief called me, Gord Bentley, and said, this is serious. There's a major derailment. And he said, square one opened up that night. And I went down to square one, and there were the people, children in arms, and babes in arms, people in their night clothes in square one. And the problem is that many of them, where do you get the food to feed the children, the babies, and where do you get the drugs to look after those that are on medication? It was all arranged with the drugstores, etc. And when I think back on it, I call it the Mississauga miracle, because it truly was a miracle in the way in which we arranged it. The people were kept out for a week, some of them. We let them back in as we got control. And finally, we found a gentleman that worked for a chemical company in Kingston, Ontario, to know how to seal the chlorine tank. And that was this was a huge hole in this tank, in the chlorine tank that had to be filled. So it was quite an experience. I didn't go to bed for 3 nights. I stayed at the emergency quarters with all the staff to make sure that everything was handled. And I remember the day that I stood out on Burnhamthorpe in front of the press and said, the city of Mississauga is closed down. We had to close the city down. Can you imagine? Nobody lost their lives. And in fact, keys were brought to the city hall of those that had left logs and caps behind. And we arranged to go to the houses, the fire department and volunteers and the police department, to feed the animals at the houses. Think about the management of it. It was an experience I wouldn't want to go through again, quite honestly. But, you know, we handled it so well. People came from all over the world to find out how we managed this maid. It was the largest evacuation in North America until this last flooding in the south. It was the largest. So that was the beginning of my career as mayor. What a beginning. In fact, I said a few months ago, I came in with a derailment and going out with an ice storm, because we had a very serious ice storm, as you know, this year. Okay, so here we are, a rural municipality, 260,000 people. And we came up with an official plan to plan the future of the city. Fortunately, we had two very large developers, Cadillac Fairview and Markborough, that owned thousands of acres of land. And they were very anxious to make sure that as their land developed, that it was well done. It meant that we didn't have the political doing of a lot of that land. These large developers hired consultants, the best consultants they could find, to plan it. So that was the beginning of Mississauga. And from there on in, we took anywhere from 20 to 25,000 people a year into the city. So when you take 20 to 25,000 people into the city, you've got to have the services for them. And we planned it, that the services would be there when they came in. And so that's the way the city developed. The city started with single-family homes. And people say that's what you call urban sprawl. Well, yes, it is. Because the people that came out from Toronto, and maybe some of you did, they came to Toronto, possibly rented in Toronto, and now they had saved up their money, and now they want to own a home. So what do? They moved to Mississauga. And the builders were only going to build what the people wanted. If they had built high-rises in Mississauga in 1980, nobody would have occupied them, because nobody wanted to live in a high-rise then. Now people love to live in condominiums. But things have changed, and as things accordingly. So now we're building high-rises, a lot of condominiums along major corridors. With single-family homes, you can't have a good transit system. You can't have a good transit system with cul-de-sacs and crescents. Buses have trouble getting around them. And people really want their car if they have a single-family home. But now we've changed the city, and we're now going for high-rise development in the right location, not to disturb neighborhoods, to put them along the major corridors where we can put in an adequate transit system to deal with them. And that's why our bus rapid transit is opening this month. The official opening is November along 403. I'm sure you've seen it being built. And we're well on our way with the light rail transit from the GO station in Port Credit up to Steeles Avenue in Brampton, which is our main route along Hurontario Street. And fortunately, with my support of Premier Wynne when she was in an election, she's assured me we will be getting the money to build that transit system. We've renovated all our community centers. They're all new except Meadowvale, and it was torn down just a month ago, and there's going to be a brand new one built there. All our swimming pools are up to date. All our libraries are up to date. And we're going to build more fire halls, as the chief knows, because as the population grows, and I don't know how many people know, that if you don't have an adequate fire service, you folks pay more insurance. I don't know if you know that on your home. I think most business people know. And so we have to keep our fire service up to date based on response within a certain amount of time. And therefore, you all save on your insurance. If we let that drop, your insurance goes up. So it's very important. I look forward. By the way, we stole him from Waterloo, right? The fire chief. Kitchener, sorry. We stole him from Kitchener. And he's come in, and I know he's going to make some changes in the fire department, but I know that he will keep the standard because it was the fire department and the police department and the staff of the city that took us through that disaster. That was one of the most major disasters in this area in years, and brought us through that in 1979. So I just want to say that's the city, and what I'm going to miss are the people, I have to tell you, being out with the people. But today my staff handed me a file, I haven't looked at it, that thick with invitations for December, January, and February. So I think I'm going to be busy attending a lot of events, etc. And I look forward to that, because what I'm going to miss is being out with the people. To me, that is, I love the administration, no question about it, because I was in the private sector and rose to a high position in the private sector. But what I really love is, and I've given everything I can. I think I use the statement often. If you give the best to whatever you do, the best will come back to you. And in my opinion, the best has come back to me with the wonderful way in which the people and the staff of the city are thanking me for the service I've rendered in the city. So the best has come back to me.
Thank you very much. And I know it's getting a little late, but I just want a couple of minutes for you to hear from her own granddaughter, Erica. The only problem is when I met her for the first time, I said, you know what, this is your granddaughter, but this is a grandmother, but this is my adopted grandmother. And she said she found somebody. So here is Erica, please.
Hi. I just want to say, I really appreciate my grandmother. And I think the most thing I appreciate is how much support she has, especially at this time, everyone saying thank you for her. And I think that's the thing that touches my heart the most, is the crowds that come out to see her. And so I say thank you to you guys for giving her all the love, the extra love on top of what she gets from her family that she gets. So thank you.
Yeah, okay. This is something that was made up by the city. There's little ones, and then they made some big ones up. And with all the many events and the support that I've received from you, Haroon, and your wife, I would like to present this to you.
Thank you very much.
You don't have to take it out of the case, because on the back is the history.
That's great. Very good. We'll just have a cake cutting ceremony.
Okay. One, two, three.
It reads, "Thank you for your years of services, Madam Mayor." Thank you very much. A minute or two, some of my friends, they brought a special gift which they wanted to present to Madam McCallion. I completely missed it. My sincere apologies. So now we have Mr. Fahim and Mrs. Fahim Adam.
Give that to her hand.
We have Dr. Iram Siddiqui. We have Mr. Muhammad Ali. We have Miss Susanna Choi. Mr. and Mrs. Khalid. Khalid bhai, please. And now we have Mr. Altaf Kapadia. Madam, if you remember, we have your birthday at his restaurant. Remember we were at Harvey's? And when people found out I'm doing your birthday at Harvey's, Brad Bird laughed at me. He said, "You are the only one who can bring Hazel to Harvey's for birthday." We did. You remember that? I remember that. Thank you. Thank you very much.